Everybody, it's Mike Kennedy, Vermont Bar Council. Welcome to my garage. For some of you, maybe welcome back to the garage. This is where it all started, 3 years and 1 month ago when the pandemic first hit, and I came out here and filmed that series of videos, CLE videos, that fortunately we don't need anymore. We can do our CLEs in person again, but this is where it all started now that I am on camera thinking about it. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about two things. First, to celebrate an anniversary, not that anniversary of the first videos, a different anniversary, an anniversary that relates to today, which is today. Today is Wednesday it's Wednesday everywhere. This week within the legal profession is Well-Being Week in Law. And the way Well-Being Week in Law is set up, it's a national event organized by mainly by the Institute for Well-Being in Law, where each day has a different theme. Each theme in turn is a component of our overall well-being. And on each day for that theme, we're supposed to think about activities that we can do that focus on the day's theme, that if we build them into our lives, make them routine, make them habits, we will improve our own wellness and well-being. I've been much more involved in Well-Being Week in Law last year and the year before than I have been this year. The reason is not because I don't think it's important. I think it's very important. But what I found myself doing last year and the year before was perhaps sending the wrong message. So I mentioned each day. Here's what I mean. When I say each day has a theme, here are the themes. The theme for Monday is physical well-being. Tuesday, spiritual well-being. Wednesday, intellectual well-being. Thursday, social well-being. Friday, emotional well-being. And what I found myself doing is perhaps sending the message that, for instance, using today as an example, intellectual well-being. Let's look at the things we can do today, Wednesday afternoon of Well-Being Week in Law. Losing sight of the fact that just doing them today, that's not really going to help our well-being in the long run. We got to pick ways to challenge ourselves to grow intellectually. That's not something we just do for 45 minutes on Wednesday of this week. It's something that we, again, like I said before, we make a habit, make part of our lives that we do throughout the course of the year. It's the aggregate, the cumulative effect that will increase our well-being. So this year, I shied away from focusing on the week to try to step back and eventually come in. I was going to do it next week, the end of this week, say, here are some great ideas associated with the week, but let's make sure that they live on in our lives, work and personal lives throughout the year, that we make them habits. So I'm not sure that made any sense, but that's my approach this year. Anyway, so today's, again, intellectual well-being. What does that mean? Here's what I wrote last year on this day. Today's theme is intellectual well-being. Continuing to grow intellectually is an important component of our overall well-being. We should strive to grow both at work and in our personal lives. How do we grow at work? It's hard, right? Because most of us are, we do one area of law. That's how it is these days. Very few people are, the general practitioner of old. And not only is it hard because of that, it's hard because we're all so busy. I get it. I know everybody's busy. It's easy for me to say, hey, find a new area of law and take a case in that or client in that. Mike, I got my existing clients and I have more than I need. I have more work than I need, more than I can handle. I don't have time to learn a new area of law. It's great that you're suggesting that, Mike, but I don't have time. Stop saying it. Here's one way you could build it into your practice. Pro bono work. Find one of the areas of law in which there is a need for pro bono work. It's okay that you don't know that area right now. Number one, Rule 1.1, the Vermont Rules of Professional Conduct, requires a lawyer to provide competent representation. Competence can be acquired through training. It says that right in the comment to the rules. The Vermont Bar Association, Legal Services of Vermont, they have great training programs in areas of law in which a need has been identified. You could take one of those programs, a lot of them are available by video, learn enough to go to one of the many different one of the many different, to access one of the, or make yourself available to one of the many different services that match lawyers with clients who need pro bono assistance. And you could handle a case or a matter. You could do it, trust me. And not only will it help the person, it might help you. For when we returning to today, yeah, intellectual well-being, continue to grow, learning something new, that new area of law, maybe that's something that'll help you grow intellectually. More importantly, I think of my friend Eileen Blackwood. Eileen's an attorney in Vermont who does a seminar with me every year for the lawyers who are new to Vermont, where we talk about a lot of things. Eileen talks about the pro bono rules and pro bono opportunities. And she always relates it to, or has a story that she relates to wellness, where she talks about a pro bono case that she had years ago, that the whole experience left her feeling so positive about the work she'd done for somebody else that she felt like it impacted her own sense of well-being. She says it far better than I do, but I think you get the point. So to the extent that intellectual well-being includes challenging ourselves to grow intellectually even within the legal profession, remember, I'm not asking you to develop a new practice area at your office or at your firm, or to change practice areas willy-nilly and go do something else with your career. All I'm asking you is to consider, maybe, whether it's landlord-tenant law, one of the rent escrow clinics, whether it's helping victims of crime, plenty of different opportunities out there that might not be the area of law that you're into right now or that you're comfortable in right now, but it's an area of law where there's a need, where you will be able to help. Trust me, you are better than leaving these people to fight for them, fend for themselves. And in the process, it might help your own sense of well-being and wellness. So consider it. Of course, we also have to continue to grow intellectually outside the practice of law, which gets back to the anniversary that I'm marking today. So 2 years ago, during Well-Being Week in Law on Wednesday, which was intellectual well-being, I promised that between that day, which was in 2021, and the next year's day dedicated to the same topic in 2022, I would learn how to make bread. That was going to be my intellectual growth for the year. I guess we could quibble, debate, argue whether learning how to make bread is really intellectual growth. I think it is. And it's my wellness, so leave me alone. Just kidding. I did it. I got in right under the wire. I made bread a year ago today on the day dedicated to intellectual well-being, filmed it, put the film on the blog, and that was that. Which the reason I'm celebrating the anniversary is because I'm celebrating the fact that, yeah, originally I was just going to make bread that day to fulfill the promise. But you know what? I kept on making bread. I've made bread several times since. It's now pretty good. I'm not ashamed of it. That day where I filmed the video, if any of you who saw the follow-up video know that the first time I did it, it came out, it was barely edible. It was terrible. I messed up some really basic things, like how to use yeast, which, has only been something that humans have known how to do for thousands of years. But I kept at it because it sparked an interest. That day where I said, "Oh, learn how to make bread," it sparked an interest in continuing. Hey, let's get good at that. If you're going to do this, let's be a little better at it. Maybe you'll like it. Maybe mom will like it. You don't have to bring her something out of the oven that she is kind enough to smile when she says, "Oh, not bad." And it is good now. Like I said, I'm not ashamed of it. But even more than that, I decided, you know what, if you can do this, maybe there's some other things you can learn how to cook. Because before this, I wasn't a cook at all. Not at all. My brother, he's the cook in the family, and my mom, not me. And I know this sounds foolish because so many of you are good at things. I'm not good really at anything. You're good at things, like cooking. But I said, you know what, you did pretty good at the bread once I figured that out. Let's learn how to make meatloaf. And now I make a pretty damn good meatloaf. Not this time of year, usually in the winter. Well, not this winter, so one winter, but I'm going to do it again next winter. And now I'm really good at making chicken wings. And I know everybody can do that, but I used to only order chicken wings from a restaurant or a bar. I never would make my own, and now I make my own, and they're pretty tasty. So I guess my point is learning, learn to do that one thing. And if you only do it on Wednesday of Wellbeing Week in Law, that's great. But it'd be even better if you could find something that sort of, the seed sort of takes, and it becomes an interest that stays with you on and on and on and on, which maybe improves your own well-being. Now, I don't want to stand here and say that, before I learned how to make bread, or before I learned how to make meatloaf or chicken wings, and I was really down in the dumps as bar counsel, didn't know what I was going to do. That's not the case. But, I like doing those things now, and it gives me something to do. It gives me something to talk to other people about, lawyers who have read the blog or heard me talk about this and say, hey, I make this too. Here's what I do. My mom, she talks to me about not only my cooking now. Oh, that's what I meant to say. So besides just the chicken wings, sorry, I got off topic there. I said, maybe I can do other things too. So last spring and summer, I decided I'm going to learn a little bit about gardening. And I did. I'd never done an iota of gardening in my life. Last year, I planted what at the time, and in a video for this blog, a different one from the bread making video, I called them spices in the video. I later learned they weren't spices, they were herbs. I planted them, those like hanging things where they fit perfectly over the rail on your deck, and one thing hangs on one side, the other hangs on the other. So I put potting soil in each of those things, planted. I had mint, I had basil, I had, what else did I have? Mint, basil, some flowers. I like the flowers, so they look nice. And some other herbs, I can't remember what. Rosemary, my rosemary was fantastic. I actually ended up using my own rosemary in my bread recipe, which for those of you who remember, the bread that I made in the original video was rosemary focaccia bread that I've now made with, instead of rosemary that I bought at Hannaford, rosemary that grew on my deck. And my rosemary survived all winter here in the garage. I took it inside and it lived. It's now back outside, thriving. Tastes pretty good still. And so that was another thing that I learned, that I guess my point was, besides learning a little bit about gardening and liking it and having something to do when I get up each morning to take care of my plants, water them, and, tend to them after work and on the weekends, it gave me a thing to bond with my mom over. Like, pretty much throughout my whole life, my only interest outside of when I was in school and when I'm working, my only interest outside of those things has been sports. My mom knows a ton about sports. She can talk sports all day long. But I think it's finally like, she must be relieved. Mom, it's okay to admit this. She must be relieved that, thank God, my son finally talks about something besides sports. And it's our plants. So like last week, well, I won't get into that, but I'm doing it again this year, my garden. Had a little faux pas already. I got excited that weekend, a couple weekends ago, where it was super nice out, like 75 and sunny. Planted everything, got my potting soil, had everything out there, was out there watering, everything was planted. Then, of course, it was only nice and sunny for 2 days. And then it got cold, rainy. I was like, oh, man, I don't think this is good for my plants, my herbs. So I took them inside. They're now in my basement. There's a great big egress window down there. So they get some natural light. I've been watering them. It's kind of humid down there in the basement, so it's good for them, I think. They're doing well. It looks like it's going to get nice again this weekend. So I'm getting ready and stay nice, hopefully. So I'm getting ready to bring them back outside. But again, that's something outside the law that I had never done, that I decided to do, that I've enjoyed. I can talk to my mom about it. Penny Benelli, a regular member of the 5 for Friday honor roll and legal ethics. Big gardener. She sent me some tips the other day. Thank you, Penny. Thank you, Mom, for the tips you sent me. So I guess my point is, not only do we help ourselves when we grow intellectually, it sort of bleeds in tomorrow, which is right. Tomorrow's social well-being. It creates all these other potential ways to connect with people, to be more social, to talk about things, to open up lines of communication and relationships that we didn't have before, which can only help us to improve our well-being. So that's my pitch for today. Intellectual well-being, find a way within the profession to challenge yourself to grow intellectually, find a way outside the profession to challenge yourself to grow intellectually, and don't just do it for one day during 1 week of the year. Find something, whatever it happens to be, that interests you, that'll stay with you, that'll help you feel good about not only doing it, but yourself, and becomes like a lifelong interest that really is wellness as a habit, healthy habits that make us, more well. Thank you for listening. Lost some weight out here. Apologize for that. Left my camera at work in the office. I had to go with this one. I think I should commit right now to my intellectual growth for this year, between this year and next year. On this day, maybe I should commit to becoming more tech savvy so I can do better videos than the one that I'm producing right now tonight. Thank you very much for listening. I should stop now. Have a great night.